Well, hello, good afternoon. My name's Dick Pugh. I'm lucky enough to live in the Test Valley in the village of Broughton, which is a few miles upstream from Romsey. I fish on the River Test when I'm lucky enough to. We've been kindly allowed to come to the home beat at Bossington House, one of the most famous beats on one of the most famous fly fishing rivers in England, if not in the world. We've got a glorious day for it today, and the level of the river is just about right. It's nice and clear. You'll see that I have glasses round my neck. These are actually Polaroids, so that I can see through the reflection on the water and actually see where the fish are. The idea is to see a fish that is rising, that is coming up to the surface to take an insect, leaves a little ripple. And if you've got the right fly on, which in my case at this time of year is a little thing called a sedge, a little black fly with its wings folded over its back, and that is the sort of fly that would naturally be around at this time of year in September. I fish by casting, which is throwing the line. It doesn't have any weight, as it would if you were beach casting at the seaside. But the weight comes from the fly line, which is this yellowy greeny line, and on the end of that is the leader, which is an almost invisible piece of nylon about 9–10 feet long. Quite a low breaking strain, only 3 pounds, so you have to be quite gentle when you do catch a fish, that you don't treat it too viciously and break it, and away he goes. The river flows south down the Test Valley to the lovely town of Romsey. Through Romsey, funnily enough, in a whole series, it breaks up into a series of little, what they call carriers. A lot of these valleys, almost all of these valleys, were originally water meadows, which cattle would graze in the spring because the grass would grow earlier. Through Romsey, the river breaks up into these various carriers, and it then comes together again and flows down through the beautiful park at Broadlands, Earl Mountbatten's old home of the Mountbatten family, through Broadlands and down and out into the sea at Southampton Water. And low down the river they do get salmon, but up here we're only catching trout and the occasional grayling, a grayling being slightly similar to the trout, but not very nice to eat, whereas the trout, of course, are delicious. I see we've got some swans for company, or cygnets anyway, young swans, and a couple of coots up there, 3 coots in fact, and some ducks. So we've got wildlife, we've got river, we've got sunshine, and a beautiful afternoon. We couldn't ask for much more than that. Let's see if there's any chance of catching a fish. Europeans of all sorts give their eye teeth and a lot of money to come and fish here. It's a chalk stream. The water is beautifully clear and it doesn't flood, therefore the level remains remarkably constant and the temperature remains remarkably constant, and because it is fed from springs, it's full of nutrients, which is very good for insect life, and the fish life is dependent very much on the insect life. Now, because it's the autumn, the fly, artificial fly, on the end of my line is what's called a sedge, and those are the prevalent flies. This time of year the insect life is thinner on the ground or on the water, but nevertheless it is about, and the fish are in there. If you were filming over there by any chance, you'd have seen a fish rising to the surface and taking, or attempting to take, my fly, which is very rewarding. It means at least I've got a fly that they're quite keen on, or potentially keen on. I'm casting not quite as far as I can, but well over to past the middle of the river. The cast is the sort of classic technique for chalk stream fishing for trout. The idea being to land a fly on the water in as natural a way as possible, with no splash, so that the fish who is seeing it from underneath thinks it's the real thing and will come up and have a go at it. And then when I bring it in, what's called the recovery, I'm just giving it a little twitch, trying to make it look as much as possible like a real live insect on the surface of the water. And then I lift it off and go back and cast again to where I know there's a fish that's interested in my fly. There was another little rise there, that came up to it. I haven't actually managed to hook one yet, but at least I've got a bit of interest. I'm now casting a little bit further over, trying to get it underneath that willow tree, because you'll often get fish under there because they will feed on the insects falling off the tree. But it is very beautiful, and we are here on the home beat at Bossington, the Bossington estate. It's rather amusing that we had the two big houses either side of the river here, Bossington House, where the Fairy family lived, and Compton House, the other side of the river, where the Sopwith family lived. Two enormously influential and important names in the history of aviation and indeed of air warfare. The Sopwith pup, camel, and many, many Fairy aircraft. I've caught a fish. Well, that's nice. One for the cameras. Now I've got to be careful not to lose it, because it'll fight and it'll try and throw the hook out of its mouth, and it'll pull away. There's a nasty tendency to call this phase playing the fish. I don't like that term, because that sounds as if you're doing it for fun, and really it's, I think, better to call it subduing. The poor thing is fighting for its life. I'll get out my net, which is cunningly telescopic, and get as close as I can. I haven't got him yet. He's still away, if he can be. Just put that there so I can get it when I get him closer. Oh, here's a nice gap in the weeds. I can bring him in. Beverly, do we catch and release? Sorry? Let him go. So what I'm going to do is bring him here, get him into the shallow water, into the net, and then gently unhook. If you can get close, it's a fairly classic catch, this, because the fly is right in the corner of his mouth, what's commonly known as in the scissors. I'm going to just get down into the water, bring him in, and I will try and get the hook out without ever putting him in the net. He may resist this. It's a nice fish, it's about 2.5 pounds. If you hold them upside down, they don't fight very much. Now I've got the fly out, and now I'm going to put him back in the water and just hold him upright while he gets his breath back. If you put them back too violently at this stage, they just turn over and die, and that's a pity. He's breathing, his gills are opening and closing, but he's not ready to go yet. This may take a bit of time. before he gets his breath back. I hardly had him out of the water at all, so he should be all right. There he goes. Go on, don't give up. Don't give up. Look, the sun's shining on him. What a shot. Don't give up. No, he's away. He'll live to fight another day. High drama at Bossington. It's an elegant motion, isn't it, when it comes right?